Hey, welcome to the Recovery Chapel. We're glad to be together again. I'm sitting here with my co-host Kendra, and we have a special guest with us today. Jersey is in the house.
How you guys doing?
Hey,
Hey,
Jersey.
man.
Good to see you, man. Jersey
Thanks for
came
having
by
me.
on Saturday, and then we had a car wash, and he actually went home, got his other car, and came back.
Yeah, he did.
This guy is dedicated.
Or I have dirty cars, yeah.
Yeah, either that or you have really dirty cars. I appreciate you being in the studio with us today. Speaking of studio, if you are interested and like what we do, please go to www.therecoverychapel.com. There's options there for PayPal. You can actually be a monthly contributor. Or what else, Kendra? What else can they do?
We also have the GoFundMe account. You can find that at The Recovery Chapel. Or if you go on to our Instagram, you can click on it, and the link is in the bio. And you can just click on it and go and donate.
That's great. Yeah, please donate. Please keep us on the air. Please keep us going. We have a 12-step meeting on Mondays. That's a spiritual-based meeting. We have a chapel on Wednesdays. We host different meetings throughout the week. Thursday nights, Friday nights, Saturday afternoons. Man, it's just a lot of stuff going on at Recovery Chapel. A lot of outreach and a lot of lives being changed. Speaking of lives being changed, Larry, this is great to have you with us, Jersey. Man, 16 years of sobriety. Wow.
By God's grace.
I tell you what, man. I met you through mutual friends and then through the rooms, and you've just been a good friend, and I appreciate you very much. Definitely appreciate you being with us. 16
Thank
years.
you.
So I'm working at history and a history lesson. What's going on in our community right now is a little bit weird, man. We got like COVID. We got to wear masks. If I was to wear a mask in a public place, it means I'm probably robbing the place. You talk about anonymity. Baseball cap, sunglasses on like a superstar. Zoom. What is up with Zoom meetings? That is just tripping. You've been to a lot of Zoom meetings?
I have, especially in the beginning. I had to start with the Zoom meetings. You got to stay secluded and isolated. So you find your way around, man. You got to do what you got to do. What happened to I always think about what happened to those old days when those guys were in Alaska and there was no AA. And if you're in a crisis, you had to write a letter, mail it to New York, hope somebody opened that letter, hope somebody wrote you back, wait for that letter, get back to Alaska before you got an answer. Today, all we have to do is jump on Zoom. I think it's a little better today.
It's different that, and I'm excited to be back in the rooms a little bit because I want to hear the newcomer story. We're going to have one in studio here shortly. I personally had to sit down at a table with just this old cuss sitting next to me, and when I got up to leave, he goes, "Where are you going? Don't go anywhere. You ain't ready yet." And speak into my life face to face, And there's something to be said about admitting we have a problem and asking for help to another individual. But to get on a YouTube, like you could fix your car on YouTube now. Why go to a mechanic? Just get your laptop and a nice little handy set of tools and go in the garage and go for it. It's crazy that technology has caught up with us, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, I've tried that YouTube thing. I thought I was going to save money. Like you said, I'm not going to go to a mechanic, and I'm just going to, that one of those cars has a difficult way to change the light bulb. So I went on YouTube, and I have to find a special wrench, pull this out. I'd get this $50 light bulb change. A mechanic would have charged me $300. I'm figuring I'm saving a lot of money. I do the whole thing. Process works. I'm all happy and fun. I go to shut the hood on my $400 Ray-Ban. So this cheap fix did not really work out as well. Sometimes you need somebody else around to watch, look over your shoulder. So next time I'm going to the shop.
I love working on cars, and that's how I change my light bulbs too. I do it all on YouTube, and I'll do it myself. Thankfully, my hands are so small, I can just reach in and do it. I don't have to take all the parts off, so it's beneficial. But you know what? It would be nice to have somebody looking over your shoulder like that all the time.
Sometimes I need a sponsor mechanic.
And that's, the mechanics of our sobriety and recovery is,
Yes.
having that person overlooking our shoulder to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Mentors.
Right.
Mentors. Without mentors, I wouldn't be. And without people, my circle, I call it, speaking into my life or making that phone call, hearing that voice. It's just a part of it, you know. I know churches are struggling right now too because every church, your local churches have become all evangelical, TV evangelical preachers now. I know of a church that's just strictly Facebook. You know, I mean, that's their outlet, Facebook, YouTube. There's no congregations. There's in society, there's no congregations unless we have a protest. So if you're listening right now, be aware of our social media because we are ready to start our recovery protest here shortly. It's just a legal gray area, I guess, for us to gather and congregate. It's not a barbecue. It's a protest. So we'll get signs up and barbecue some hot dogs. I'm just kidding.
I think it's our treatment. So we're allowed to go to the doctor, right? So sometimes I need to go get my treatment.
You know what's funny is in the state of California, I know for a fact that ADA, we are essential. We meetings and things of that nature, rehabilitation centers, sober living environments, stuff like that is all deemed essential medically. So, and that's a whole nother show. What brought you in 16 years ago? How'd you walk in the front door of
well, yeah, actually, I think it was May 13th or something like that was my last night out. I was drinking in Costa Mesa and, you know, tinted windows, bad luck. I got pulled over and honestly, I remember kind of falling out of the car when the policeman pulled me over and I have to read the police report to hear what I was said, you know, .024 I think is what I blew. So May 15th was after, you know, getting bailed out and they said, go get this court card signed. I went to a meeting in Anaheim. So I walked into a place in Anaheim and I did not find those people friendly yet, man. Those guys were really tough looking, I say biker, long hair, tattoos. And they were yelling at everybody, and I just sat there quietly and threw my court card in the basket, and I would go in and get out, and this was my welcome there. You know, I sat there for a while, and but you know, what was interesting is I think I was so afraid of losing my job that fear kept me from drinking a little while. You know, because here I am just burned, and so I'm sitting in these meetings, and I still had a car, even though I couldn't drive it because I have a suspended license at the time. I still had a job I was trying to take the bus to. You know, I didn't have a lot of the bad stories that all these people had in the meetings. And as I'm sitting there, though, I'm watching all these people happier than me. They were at peace, and they had less than I did. They had tragic stories. And I felt like a little baby, a whiny baby sitting in these rooms like, I don't have a good enough story to hang out in here. And I could just sit there quietly and sit in Anaheim and watch these people. But I guess, you know, at the time they only gave me chips for 1, 2, 3 months. And those chips kind of get me going. I remember getting those 3 months of chips. But then from there it was 3 to 6 months. That was the longest 3 months of my time of just sitting there dry, hanging on to the edge of my seat, getting my court card signed, going to all these steps classes that the judge had ordered. And at 6 months, somebody said, well, are you reading the big book? And I thought they meant Bible because I'm a good Catholic. And I thought they meant the Bible. And I was like, well, yeah, I have a big book. And so actually, I did not know what they meant. And I've heard them say, and I always say this, there were certain people that sat in certain corners of the room. And I remember these guys, and they sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher. Wah, 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 one day at a time. Wah, 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 you know, live and let live. And these guys were not making any sense. And what they said wasn't affecting my life, and it wasn't making my life better. And I heard them say, just don't drink. Well, I wasn't drinking, and I was miserable. I was miserable in the room. And from 6 to 9 months, I was even worse. You know, I'm white-knuckling it. It's at that time that I figured out there's a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the big book they talk about. I didn't know. I thought it was a Bible, so it took me almost 6 to 9 months to figure out the big book. So I started reading it. I read the steps on the wall and all that. I hear everybody talking about the steps. I'm a smart man. I went to college, and I just couldn't understand what they really wanted. I read that, and it wasn't working for me. And I think it was at that time that I finally had to ask a man to help me with the step work. Because I don't know about you guys, but as a man, a macho Latin man, talking about feelings, feeling of inadequacy, low self-esteem is not what I talked about at the bars, and I'm not about to talk to anybody here. But at the time, though, in the meetings, they used to make you say your name and your disease. And so I would say, my name is Larry, and I'm going to do it here. I mumbled, I'm an alcoholic. Like, I didn't want to say the word alcoholic. And they would yell at me, are you an effing alcoholic or not? And because I'm sensitive, I'd say, please stop yelling at me. Yes, I'm an alcoholic. But if you don't know what that means, I didn't know what was going to happen next. So a man said, let's go through the step work. And I always, thankfully for sponsors, men that'll take you through. He showed me step 1, there's 40 pages of it dedicated in the big book, and step 12 ends at page 102, 103. So there's 113 pages to do all 12 steps. But 40 pages, something like that, 36 to 40 pages to step 1 to find out if you're an alcoholic or not, to say whether, innermost self, if you're an alcoholic. And what I'm glad is he said, don't say what he thinks he wants me to say. Like, I want to impress this guy. And so I want to say what he hears. And he goes, don't lie. Don't worry. Say what you really think, because the big book and those 40 pages will ask you from a different direction in all different ways until the truth finally comes out. Because I've heard people say, be honest. I had no ability to be honest. It's not denial. They say, people say denial is don't even know I'm lying. No, denial means I know I'm kidding myself. I am trying to hide something. Delusion is what scares me. I can't see the truth at all. I can't even see what's going on. The big book, I think, is meant to knock down delusions. So any reservations, anything I thought, I'm a macho man, I have to do this on my own. If you do a real step 1, I think you'll find out whether you're an alcoholic or not. And if you are, you have no choice and no hope. The big book talks about Dr. Silkworth, and they talk about Carl Jung, the psychiatrist. They talk about how these people went and tried as hard as they could with the best scientists, best doctors, and best treatment, and they ended up in a hopeless place. They had to drink. They had no choice unless you find a higher power. So to me, walking into Anaheim, I didn't know that this was not, I thought it was going to be a self-help group, but it was more a journey to try to find out that I can't do this on my own. I better find something else. You want to keep going about this?
Yeah. All day long, man. So you can't, I like that. It's not a self-help group, and you can't do it by yourself.
I think it's so interesting that he says, I'm this, macho Latino man. And then he says, wait, I'm sensitive.
Very sensitive.
Please don't yell at me. It goes to show, how our real nature, even in the beginning, starts to come out as we progress in the program. And then how that leads you to, okay, well, maybe I need to submit a little bit and ask for help.
I wasn't even looking at that side. You're taught, as a man, at least my version is, I fail or succeed on my own. So any sort of sensitivity or looking at feelings is weakness. So I just remembered, no, I can't look at that stuff. And that's what they're asking you to do in these steps, is to look at yourself. In the big book, it tells you have to find a higher power. If you make it to step 3, step 3 is telling me that I cannot do this on my own. I cannot choose not to drink. Either I do this on my own, which I found out leads me to die slowly. I'm hard to kill. I keep waking up. Or you find a higher power. But what's really good about where do you find that higher power? It tells you exactly where. Look inside. And that's why we do step 4. You're uncovering all these conditions and preconceived notions and false ideas and morals and convictions I had that kept me from finding a higher power. So if I can clear that stuff out by looking within, I get to connect to a higher power without. So I love that I was able to find that. To me, I always say this, I'm a recovering Catholic. I think my Catholic school God sent me back into AA so that I could find him again. Mm-hmm. Because he's been telling me all my life, thy will be done, not mine, but I didn't know how to do it. I believe in AA and the 12 steps is where I found a way to actually connect to him and try to do his will. So
absolutely. And then every morning you get up and you return to seeking God's will, and then we get in the car and drive to work, and on the way to work, we lose it a little bit, but then you got to continually do that. You got to continually seek other will. And I love the question, and I'm gonna propose it to you. It's kind of deep. How do you know the difference between God's will and Jersey's will?
That's a tough one. It is deep because it changes over time. I remember in the beginning, I was obsessed to trying to figure out step 3, what God's will for me is. And honestly, in the beginning, there is no God. Honestly, in step 3, I don't have a connection to God yet. There is no God in my life. It's what my life looks like without God. Step 3 is telling me, how did I do on my own? I can't do this on my own. If you want to connect to God, do step 4 and on. But in the beginning, I remember hearing shortcuts. I really am not sure what God wants me to do, but I'm pretty sure I know what He doesn't want me to do. You know, I was able to kind of, mold my pattern or behavior. You always hear that little voice in that head, like, maybe you shouldn't steal that candy. Maybe you shouldn't date that girl. Maybe you shouldn't steal this. Whatever. I've always heard that voice, but this store's, my justification kicks in. That store has insurance. They don't care about it, or they're never going to notice it's missing, or they don't need the money as much as I do, or, I'm going to treat her well. Whatever justification I had, but I've learned to listen to that part a little more. But the truth is, I've done all the step work now. This is my goal, and I don't know how to say. I'm more conscious of my sixth sense or the inner voice or that extra consciousness. All I am is an empty vessel, just empty, and all I'm waiting is for my God to direct me. And so a lot of times, I make plans, let God decide. I want something to happen, but I keep running into a wall. It's probably not what I need to do. If I am practicing recovery, participating in recovery, this is an inconvenient life because I have a sponsor that I'm accountable to. I have sponsees that call me at funny times. Sometimes I'm called to be of service instead of hanging out on my couch and watching a movie. It becomes an inconvenient life if you want to participate. But the truth is the rewards are so much greater every time I am inconvenienced, as I say inconvenienced. So today, I don't know. I feel like I pay attention a little more. I pause when agitated. I love that statement, pause when agitated and pray for the right thought or action. I don't have the ability to pause until a higher power got involved. But I also say when you pray for the right thought or action, there's a moment of meditation. And a lot of people talk about meditation, and they talk about like making your heart stop, like those gurus on top of a mountain somewhere in Asia or something. When I meditate, I got a 1939 dictionary somebody gave me as a gift to find out what the old timers thought about when they were writing the book. Meditation is not quiet the mind. I cannot quiet the mind to zero because I'm alive. I'm human. So when I sit there, I have a million things going through my head, like, should I eat Burger King? Should I eat McDonald's later? What should I watch on TV later? And this is me sitting there in meditation. The 1939 dictionary defines meditation as ponder, focused thought, concentrated thought. And so I feel like it's a moment of me narrowing down so many thoughts into certain few ones. And my higher power has made, my mind is not against me. It's not a crime scene. I believe it's supposed to help me function in this life. That I say intuitively know how to handle situations used to baffle us. Our mind is meant to be our asset. He gave it to us. So when I pause and pray, a lot of times if I try to figure out what God's will is, he'll show me. I think I've come to be a little more attuned to that now over time. So I don't know if that answered your question or made more questions.
Both. You want to make God laugh?
Make a plan.
Make a plan.
Lord knows that one is right on the nickel for me.
I think that's great advice for all of us is to pause and pray. Pause and pray. I know I have a sponsor to call you. Did you pray about that? And if the answer is no, obviously the phone gets
hung up.
Yeah. Oops! I didn't listen in the first place. We say things like, "That's your journey. That's his journey to take." Well, that means he's making a wrong decision in your mind, right? Like there's an opinion there, and sometimes we don't. I know I don't listen to those opinions, and I don't listen. I'll make a plan and I'll present it to friends or my inner circle within the rooms, and they're like, "Yeah, good luck with that." Probably not a good idea. They're looking at it from a different set of eyes, and I refrain. I don't pause. And sometimes it's very prayerful. I'll pray about it a lot, but I'm probably praying, God, make this happen. God, make this happen.
That's the other thing too is you brought up. See, I have my version of prayer too. Like I used to say the foxhole prayer, get me out of this or save me from this. But I've learned now, be careful how you pray. Just like you make plans, I'm kind of praying for this to work out, and that's me telling God what to do. And so today, my prayer has to be a little different. Like whatever situation I'm in, I try to ask God, my higher power, to get involved, not directing him how to. One example is a friend of mine just got in a bad motorcycle wreck. And most people would pray for his recovery. And I do hope for his recovery. But my prayer was for my higher power to get involved, for God to get involved in the way he wants it to be. Either he gets recovered, God helps him recover, or if he doesn't recover, God helps the rest of us accept what's going on, or he accept what happens. So I'm no longer telling God, even though that sounds perfectly justifiable, I hope he recovers, I'm going to tell God what to do. God, get involved in this situation. That's how most of my prayers go. I don't ask him in any direction or not, which way to go.
We just ask for him to be here.
Yes, get involved.
Get involved. Let's take the first step. That's great advice, and we're gonna kind of go to a different segment here. Kendra, what's going on this month?
This month?
No, yeah, July.
July. So July 25th, we have a Writers for Recovery event going on the 25th. I think I just said that, but the 25th of July, and we're hoping to have some vendors here and some food. We're going to pass out numbers and have a couple of contests. Maybe I'm pushing for some slow races. I want to see some slow races with the bikes. I think it'd be fun, but it's all going towards the great cause of helping support the Recovery Chapel and doing what we're doing here now.
We talk about motorcycles or bicycles?
Motorcycles. My favorite.
I don't know about tip overs and slow races. All right.
Jersey, you need to go out and buy a bike, man. We got to ride. Actually, I'll just follow you in the convertible. It's cool.
This macho Latin man is not allowed to because my mom says no. I'm not allowed to have a motorcycle.
Same here.
I was told no a long time ago, but both those women in my life are still in my life. But yeah, I'm a little old and stubborn. So hence I ride a motorcycle now. Anyway, the Recovery Chapel is honored to have Larry and Mr. Jersey in the room, and we just appreciate you so much. Thank you for sharing with us today, and I hope that you'll come back and be a regular.
Sure. Hey, man, there's a lot more to tell, so whenever you want.
There's a lot more to tell. There's a lot more to tell with all of us. And remember, for those of you listening, your story saves lives. It doesn't matter where you are spiritually. It doesn't matter where you are in sobriety. From day one, your story is going to save the life of another. So do not hesitate to share. Do not hesitate to reach out and continue your journey, as Jersey put it, your journey to take. It is by the grace of God, he said, and grace is defined for us as a gift. The grace is a gift that we received that we did not deserve. And when we come to a humbling experience, to experience that and to know that with all of our heart, that we did not deserve it. And so therefore we want to share it. We don't want to be selfish in that. We want to share it. We want to carry the message to others.
Before you shut it down, though, I don't know. You can edit this out later, but you brought up something, too, that I feel like there's a grace. When I walked in, I told you I was afraid that I was going to lose my job, and it kept me from drinking. A lot of times I think it's that period. There's a small amount of grace we have that God separates us from the drink that we have to get to work.
Our window of opportunity.
I barely talked about this, but, it's the action that's changed. I did not connect to my higher power just by praying. I had to get into action, and I humbled myself and asked a man to be my sponsor. It felt like asking a girl out for a date. I even stumbled and stuttered when I asked him to be my sponsor. And he took me through the step work. But the thing is, the reason I'm doing this today is not about drinking. Like, when I was separated from the drink, the other part of the step one is unmanageability. And it's a hard definition for some people, but I believe in the bedevilments. When I was drinking, I was full of fear, unhappy, miserable, depressed, feelings of uselessness. That's when I was drinking. I'm separated from the drink now because I was afraid for 3 months to 6 months to 9 months. I'm separated from the drink, but guess what? Larry's still full of fear, unhappy, having problems with personal relationships, uselessness. And I thought you guys said all I had to do is not drink. So obviously my problem is there. That's where my spirit is unmanageable, and it hurts being Larry. And it wasn't until I was able to find a higher power through the step work that helped me with those things, because it's not about not drinking. To me, I need to have something that helps me with the misery and depression, unhappiness, personal relationships, uselessness. Those are why I really keep coming back. I don't feel like dying anymore. I feel like enjoying this life. I am blessed every minute. My gratitude list can go on for a whole hour or more. Like, I can keep going. And I can turn anything from good to bad. Like I used to say, man, look at this electric bill. And my sponsor used to say, you ungrateful bastard. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I look at how big the electric bill is. Why? Because I have an air conditioner. You know, it's at my house. You have an air conditioning. You have TV. My son has a PlayStation. I get that. But then one time I made the mistake with my sponsor. I said, I had a boxer dog, and he takes big craps in my backyard. And I had to go scoop the crap before my landscaper comes to cut the... And I made the mistake of telling my sponsor, man, I can't believe I got to go scoop crap. And he goes, you ungrateful bastard. And I'm like, all right, here we go. What do you mean? And he goes, where are you scooping that crap? Where's it coming from? Your dog. My dog. Oh, you have a dog. You're a lucky guy. Where's that dog crapping? My backyard. You have a backyard? What is that backyard connected to? My house. You have a house, you ungrateful bastard. So every time I scoop up crap, I'm grateful, you know. Everything has changed in my life because of the 12 steps. And my last analogy, and you know, I know you were trying to say goodbye, but I always like these stories, is I used to work in LA, and I drive to LA, and if I'm going over the grapevine and I look at the gutter, it's a bunch of McDonald's bags and ripped up tires and garbage. And you would think that the drive is just a horrible litter. Mess, just messy. But I believe my higher power got involved through AA. He lifted my chin up, and now I see ice-capped mountains, fields, cattle, beautiful homes, clouds. It's the same road we're on, but my higher power changed what I'm looking at and what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling. That's why I keep coming back, man. I want to see the beauty, not the garbage. Thanks.
I want to see the beauty, not the garbage. And Larry, I tell you what, you are a beautiful man. So we are honored to sit at the table with you. You always have a seat at this table. You know that, I hope, and in your heart. If you want to be a guest on our podcast, please go to www.therecoverychapel.com and let us know. Email us. Click the link and contact us, and send us an email. Give us a little feedback on the show. Please, please, please consider keeping us on the air and donating. We need your funds. We need your funds. He mentioned the power bill. We are grateful for what we've done, but the lights have to stay on, and this is the internet and the power, and it gets expensive. Coffee is not free. We got plenty of resentments and plenty of black coffee, but that's it. So we will continue to have our meetings in the rooms, whether it be in the street or here in the Recovery Chapel. We are alive and well. Recovery does not take a break, and neither do we. So thanks for tuning in today. Kendra?
Yes.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
You know, for our listeners, they got to go to our YouTube channel and check out Kendra, because she mentioned working on a car, and that just doesn't look like a mechanic to me. You just don't look like a grease monkey.
And I love it. I really do. Motorcycles and getting my hands dirty.
You are a character.
Needless to say, yeah.
Larger than life.
Because you are a character doesn't mean you have character.
Oh.
Pulp Fiction. Sorry, anyway. Just a funny line. It doesn't really mean anything.
Shots fired.
Ouch.
Where's that sound machine at?
So our next show will be Kendra and I going back and forth, and Boxing 101. Hey, I appreciate everybody coming in today. I appreciate you listening. God bless you, and know that you're prayed for.